There's too many people that are isolated in trying to do good work for God. They're all trying to figure out how to market Catholicism in a fresh way that actually engages people.
So we tried it the first year, had tremendous success.
It's exciting. I'm having fun. I'm meeting a lot of really great people.
I have been to all of these shows over the last year, and by far this is my favorite.
I want to emphasize the importance of what you're doing as lay apostles in the CMN.
The Catholic Marketing Network has a service that the marketplace needs and the church needs.
There's the distribution of a lot of Catholic religious items, but most of the people you talk to, they say, we really come for the networking.
It's a great joy to be here. In fact, it was almost 10 years ago that I came to the Catholic Marketing Network for the first time. There was a friend and I putting out sacred music, and Ignatius Press picked it up and they showcased us, and before you know it, we had sold 20,000 copies to people like you. And that sprungboard a company that now has reach in about 8 different countries.
I found really good and very interesting because I like when people come from everywhere and we can learn a lot. We come to show something, but they show us too. So that's an amazing.
This is always one of my favorite events.
I always love coming here and being here because it's such a synergy to be around like-minded people with the same ideals, the same love for the church. So it's beautiful.
So be sure to check that out. And their ministry promotes the Sacred Heart devotion around the globe and encourages people to turn their heart and heal and restore to renew their life through Christ. On this site, Emily and those who share blog posts, there are videos, words of encouragement to help people live out the devotion. They can also sign up for the enthronement materials for their home, workplace, and school. And Emily is also finishing their parish manual right now, and hopefully that will be finished by the end of June. Now, of course, I'm reading this bio, which was written previous to this time in July. They've also sent materials for the enthronement to 45 out of the 50 states and international families, which can download those materials that I mentioned earlier. The enthronement is a devotion that fulfills the request from Jesus to Saint Margaret Mary to have his heart exposed and honored, and you shall be blessed. And then lastly, Michelle, now I hope I pronounced Michelle's name correctly here. Is it Fainley and Emily have a ministry called InspireTheFaith.com. So be sure to check that out, InspireTheFaith.com, where they keep book studies and materials of 4 books that they wrote together. Emily's website is EmilyJaminet.com, and it is basically an author page. Welcome, Emily. Thank you so much for joining us on the Sowing Hope podcast.
Thank you so much. What a gift to be here. I love hope. I love inspiration. I love to encourage people to see that transformation is possible. So wow. What a gift that we get to spend this time together. Thank you.
Absolutely. You're going to fit right in here because we got Patchwork Heart Ministry, and Sacred Heart of Jesus is something that we really enjoy talking about on this program. So, and just hearts in general. So we're excited to have you. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. I echo exactly what Bill said. And it's been a pleasure to kind of get to know you a little bit via our communication that we've had over the last several months. And you expressed an interest. And I'm so grateful that you wanted to be a guest here. So it's wonderful that this night is here. You're a guest on the Sowing Hope podcast. I want to say hi to all of your friends and also to our good friend Jean Egoff, because I believe that she might have even have been the one that introduced us. I'm not 100% sure, but I know that that she might have been the one that introduced us. So thank you.
Well, yes, Jeannie's actually from Columbus, Ohio as well. And I just have to tell you that I have been inspired by what you've done, seeing it especially on LinkedIn. You do a really good job combining technology and faith and inspiration. So you definitely have gotten my attention, and I'm excited that we get to sow some hope together.
That's right. Because like Bill said, that's what it's all about. Sowing Hope, Patchwork Heart Ministry. Why don't we start out with your personal journey, your family life, whatever you want to share about your early faith life, and as how you got involved in ministry would be amazing if we could hear that.
Sure. I'm actually a cradle Catholic. I come from a beautiful Catholic family. I was raised in a family of 4 children. My older brother is a Catholic priest here in my diocese. So I've been very privileged to just kind of get a glimpse of the church from his perspective, which is one where the laity and religious are meant to work together to promote the authentic faith, the gift of the Catholic faith. So I'm very blessed. My parents have spent many years in the vineyard, you could say, in our own diocese, starting ministries such as working in the Catholic men's and women's ministry here that puts on yearly conferences. So I grew up with this understanding that, we're called to not only have faithful families, but that we can get involved in parish and even diocesan or larger ministry work. I am blessed to be the mom of 7 children. So my oldest is 21, my youngest is 5. I didn't think I would end up being an author and really heavily involved as a woman in Catholic ministry, even though it was always in my heart, being that my family was so large and it was just a big piece of my life until about 6 years ago when I really felt called to juggle ministry work along with family life. And it's been really blessed. I'm happily married for 22, almost 22 years to my wonderful husband. And we just believe passionately about being involved in the faith, supporting others in the faith, and being involved in our local community. So you might not just find us in the Catholic realm, definitely in many different realms of giving back through the works of Mercy, many sports teams, many activities that we've been involved in.
Wow, that's really beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. And congratulations on your beautiful family and your 7 children. And I'm sure you're busy with them. And it's just great that you're able to do ministry work in addition to how busy you are as a mom and caring for your family. So I think that's wonderful that you put that as a first and foremost too in your life, that you want to give back. And so that's a beautiful thing. So let's start out with whatever facet of your ministry you'd like to share. I mean, obviously you have a big devotion to the Sacred Heart and the enthronement. What has it meant to your life to have been, to have done that Sacred Heart enthronement?
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up. One of the things that was very impactful in my family life was my grandparents. They are this wonderful couple. They lived in Cincinnati, Ohio, a few hours away, and we would show up after a long, trip, 2.5 hour trip, and they would be watching EWTN, and they would be praying the rosary. And my grandfather actually had a workshop in his basement where he put together images of the Sacred Heart and the Immaculate Heart, and actually had them sent to Albania and India to support St. Teresa, at the time Mother Teresa of Calcutta. So this was very impressionable on me as a teenager, as a young adult, like, what is Grandpa doing? And when Mother Teresa sent him a birthday card, I was like, wow, this is something amazing. This humble, simple man is making such a difference in the world. So I had that on my peripheral, and my parents' conversion, which took place in their 40s. So I knew that faith was always important, but I can, rewind my own personal devotion to the Sacred Heart to a moment where I was feeling a bit overwhelmed. I had 6 children. I was just praying like, Lord, what's next? What do you want me to do with my life? What do you want me to do with my family, on my career, all those deep personal questions. And that night I knelt down in my front office at the time, and I gave my heart to the Sacred Heart, and we had a true heart to heart where we, I poured it all out there. And I can tell you that something changed that night. I've always been a practicing Catholic. I've, been open to so many different movements and Marian devotions, but something special happened. And ultimately it led to an enthronement and to a real direction that we need to have faith experiences, not only in church, but also in our home. And that's what gets me excited about the enthronement. It brings the words of Joshua alive. As for me and my house, we shall serve the Lord. It's a fulfillment of this understanding that as Christians, as individuals, as families, that Jesus wants to be part of our very fabric of our life. And enthronement is a beautiful way to fulfill that, or take that first step. It's not the end point, but it's definitely a new beginning.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thanks for sharing about your grandfather too, because it's an encouragement to seniors who are listening to this podcast, who have grandchildren and who want to make an impact on them somehow. They want them to come back to the faith. They want them to go to church and care about religion and care about the Catholic Church, right? And care about Jesus. And so it's so beautiful that your grandfather and your parents, you mentioned your parents were amazing too, and how they really just shined their faith on you and your whole family, how it just was passed down to the generations. So that's really a beautiful thing. So what about for your own family? Like you said, you're a mom of 7, you and your husband been married for, did you say 22 years, was it?
Yes.
Great. So how has that made a difference also for you and the kids and your husband, like having that enthronement?
Well, I was getting ready for an event, and I asked them that question, like, what does the Sacred Heart mean to you? It's one thing for, that image to be hung in our front room, or I have a beautiful statue in my office or in my bedroom. But they said, Mom, it's the reminder of how much Jesus loves us. Just tell people that we have a faith of love, that Jesus, this is a kingdom of love. And that meant a lot to me, because it's one thing to talk about religion, right? But it's another thing to really articulate the essence of it. And that is, Jesus died for us because he loves each one of us. And this kingdom of love is one that is transformative. It gives us every reason to have hope. And it gives us every reason to believe that we need to always extend that hope. As you mentioned, for example, a lot of families are discouraged over their faith of their their grandchildren or their situation. And I keep saying, it's an end game devotion. That's what I love about the 12 promises of the Sacred Heart. That's what I love about this devotion. Like, we're placing all of our trust in the heart of Jesus, including our loved ones, our relatives, our community, our parish. And as a result, we're going to place that trust, but we're going to do acts of reparation. We're going to offer up our Eucharist for other people. We're going to, do our tasks with love in our heart. So, I definitely am like every other person here on this podcast. I am no canonized saint. I am just a mom. But what I realized was we needed someone to have that voice to give people a new beginning, give people an opportunity to also have family prayer. The enthronement is about 20 minutes. It's 3 days of preparation and enthronement, but we're not going to overwhelm families. We're going to lead them to a place where they want to open their heart to the Sacred Heart, and they want those graces. So I can say that I've lived it, I've experienced it, I've seen mountains moved in my own family. My children know that always this is the model of love. Not what the world says. This is the true model, is the heart of Jesus.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. And I liked how you said it's an end game devotion, because, you're right. There's a lot of people out there that might be discouraged but the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and really, saying the prayer of St. Faustina too, Jesus, I trust in you, that you're going to work everything out. And, enthroning the image of the Sacred Heart of Jesus in your living room or in your home, talk a little bit about the rite of that you use. It says the enthronement's about 20 minutes, but 3 days of preparation. So talk a little bit about, what that, and I'm sure there's other different versions out there, but talk a little bit about what your version is and what that looks like for a family or for a couple or whoever wants to do this, because the heart of Jesus is for everybody. It's meant to be shown and exposed in our homes. So just share a little bit about how you draw that out for people.
Sure. I didn't actually initially intend to write a book on the devotion, but I found there were not a lot of resources on it. And so I started doing a lot of research on where does this begin? What does this look like? Again, this is not a sacrament. This is a devotion. So it doesn't need to have the perfect form to fulfill the task, such as giving your heart to the Sacred Heart. But it does have some certain defining characteristics. So first, it's rooted in an understanding that you want to have a relationship with the Sacred Heart. It's placed in a predominant place in your home to really fulfill those promises of St. Margaret Mary Alacoque from the 1670, where Jesus says, where my image is, you shall be blessed. This idea that we're not just going to put it in the back corner of your storage room in hope that we're living out our Catholic faith. Instead, placing that image in your home in a predominant place, and really it serves as a holy reminder. Father Stosh Daly, one of the priests that has done the videos on our website, says it's like a holy stop sign in your house. We need these places where we go and we are like, Jesus, I trust in you. Jesus, take care of everything. Jesus, I surrender it all to you. We say these little prayers throughout the day, not to change God, but to change us, to change our heart, to change our perspective. So it involves an image, like we said, a respectful image of the Sacred Heart, because Jesus also declared that, when he appeared to her, his image was outside of his body, showing his love. At one point, it was like a furnace. It was fiery and beautiful like crystal. So there's some certain characteristics, but the point is the image is respectful. It serves as a holy reminder. The enthronement, when I say 3 days, you can do 8 days. I tell people, you can do a 9-month novena to the Sacred Heart and then do the enthronement. That's not the point. The point is, may the preparation not be a stumbling point where you don't do the enthronement, right? Because when I started doing research, a lot of people felt unworthy of the heart of Jesus. They felt so broken that they could barely understand that Jesus wanted to be a part of their brokenness. So by, simplifying it with such as a 3-day preparation, which really what came out of 1907, Father Mateo, he was a priest, a Chilean priest that saw how families were being torn apart, and he wanted to fulfill St. Margaret Mary Alacoque's 12 promises, and so he formalized that through enthronement. So when we use the word enthronement, we can think about that importance of just his work. But he had an 8-day, he had a 3-day, but sometimes he said, you need such grace, go hang the image now, proclaim Jesus as King, Savior, and friend of this family, consecrate your heart, and pray the rosary later, basically. So it's not the form that matters the most, it's the intention. And sometimes people will say, but Emily, I want to invite my parish priest. What if my parish priest wants to do it? I said, fabulous, invite the parish priest. But my brother's a priest. He's got 5,000 parishioners. He doesn't need to be part of every person welcoming Jesus into their home. So if you want to invite someone, that's great, but it's not a necessity. It shouldn't, nothing should hold you back from, taking that step forward of receiving new graces and new beginning. And then lastly, what I love about this devotion and what I hear constantly, and I write about in the book, is people say, that he really reveals, he exposes, he allows us to be able to be healed from what we're suffering from, because he doesn't want to leave us in our darkness. He doesn't want to leave us in that place of bitterness or anger or even financial disarray. He gives us new lenses to see what we need to see about our family, our jobs, every aspect of our life. So nothing should hold us back. It's not a devotion of superstition in any way. It's really, developing a personal relationship with Jesus as Catholics.
Wow, thank you so much for explaining that. And you're making me, and that's a good thing, making me even more interested in giving myself to it more. I will admit, I guess it was probably, I have to think about this. It's got to be at least 15 years ago that we did the enthronement, my family and I here. And we do have the prominent, picture on the wall, and try to remember to always include the Sacred Heart of Jesus in our thoughts and prayers each day. But what about, would you have any advice for people like me, possibly like me, who did it a while ago, but maybe haven't, or need some kind of encouragement to devote themselves even more to it? Because like I said, I remember that we did it in the month of June, and it was, like I said, it was at least 15 years ago. And, but I would like to have some kind of, yeah, I'm kidding around when I say kick in the pants, but you know what I mean? But just to kind of get myself going with, I did this a while ago. I do think and pray and honor the Sacred Heart, but maybe need to kind of, would there be a need to kind of redo it again? Or do you think that just kind of realizing that, yes, he's there, devote yourself more purely and more often?
That's such a great question. And that's one reason why, we set up this ministry, welcomehisheart.com, is we didn't want people to feel like it was one and done. And a lot of times, like the first time we did it, it felt so hard to do it based on the ages of the children, praying every night. Like it was like, okay, we're done. And what I came to realize through research and in deeper understanding, no, this is a devotion. This is just a new beginning. So when we look at the 12 promises specifically, the 12 promises are a summary of many of the beautiful promises St. Margaret Mary Alacoque revealed from what Jesus had shared to her.
There's too many people that are isolated in trying to do good work for God. They're all trying to figure out how to market Catholicism in a fresh way that actually engages people.
So we tried it the first year, had tremendous success.
It's exciting. I'm having fun. I'm meeting a lot of really great people.
I have been to all of these shows over the last year, and by far this is my favorite.
I want to emphasize the importance of what you're doing as lay apostles in the CMN.
The Catholic Marketing Network has a service that the marketplace needs and the church needs.
There's the distribution of a lot of Catholic religious items, but most of the people you talk to, they say, we really come for the networking.
It's a great joy to be here. In fact, it was almost 10 years ago that I came to the Catholic Marketing Network for the first time. There was a friend and I putting out sacred music, and Ignatius Press picked it up and they showcased us, and before you know it, we had sold 20,000 copies to people like you. And that sprungboard a company that now has reach in about 8 different countries.
I found really good and very interesting because I like when people come from everywhere and we can learn a lot. We come to show something, but they show us too. So that's an amazing.
This is always one of my favorite events.
I always love coming here and being here because it's such a synergy to be around like-minded people with the same ideals, the same love for the church. So it's beautiful.
Welcome to the Sowing Hope podcast. This is a show all about implanting hope in our hearts. I'm Bill Snyder, joined by my friend Ann DeSantis. We're glad you're here for our uplifting conversation about faith and how it sustains our hearts through all the seasons of life. Thanks for walking with us. And good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Sowing Hope podcast. I am Bill Snyder. It's great to be with you. Thank you so very much for tuning in here on Patchwork Heart Ministries YouTube channel and our podcast channel. Thank you for being here. It is another week here, wrapping it up and headed toward Father's Day weekend, but we don't want to get there too soon because we have a great show for you all. And as always, I'm joined by my good friend Ann DeSantis. Ann, how are you?
Good, Bill. Thank you. It's great to be here. I'm excited about this podcast.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It's always fun to be here sowing hope on the airwaves.
That's right. We have 2 amazing guests. Now, I'd love to read their bios because there's so much to learn about our 2 guests, which are Patrick Walsh and Eli Wenger. And I'll start out with Patrick. He's the Director of Programs for Catholic Social Services in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. Martha's Choice Marketplace, the largest food pantry in Montgomery County. He lives with his saintly and patient wife and 4 little children in Pottstown, PA. When she's not caring for 4 children under 8, she gives Patrick all his best ideas and helps him stay organized despite overwhelming odds. After graduating from Cabrini University in 2010, he taught middle school English for 2 years before joining Catholic Social Services in 2015. He's written for Catholic Philly over the past few years and is now learning how to grow food at Martha's Community Farm in Audubon, PA, at the former St. Gabriel's Hall campus. The farm, like the food pantry, convenes people from all walks of life to come together in service and love for their neighbors. He's blessed to be surrounded by the most amazing team of volunteers ever to run a food pantry, many of whom are clients of the pantry, as well as phenomenal staff team and creative partner and co-director Eli Wenger. In his spare time, he's trying to learn to pray better than he did yesterday and to see God in everyone. And I love to read Eli's bio as well. Eli Wenger is the director of operations for Martha's Choice Marketplace and Community Farm, as mentioned, in Pennsylvania, with a background and focus in authentic community building. Eli has pivoted from small business ownership, Steel City Coffee House in Phoenixville, PA, to running a food pantry that seeks to learn from, communicate, and help invest and build upon the best of the community it serves. He hikes daily with his dog Willa and can usually found playing banjo at any and all hours of the day. Great bios, and thank you so much for joining us, Patrick and Eli.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having us.
Yes, Eli, thank you. It's a blessing to have you both here. And why don't we start out with you, Eli? Just tell us a little bit more about yourself. I really like your bio, and you like to play the banjo. And you mentioned the Steel City Coffee House in your bio there in Phoenixville, PA. My brother used to play music there. My brother, Joe Morales, has been a guest on the Sewing Hope podcast. You may or may not know him. He's also a musician. Do you know Joe Morales? Yeah, you probably didn't know I was his sister, though.
I had no idea. It's a small world, the way it all interconnects, isn't it?
It is. I'll have to let him know. Maybe he's even listening. Who knows?
Who knows?
That's right.
Yeah. So that's my background. I owned Steel City Coffee House for quite a few years, worked there and managed prior to that. So it's pretty much a quarter of my life was spent in one way, shape, or form running that coffee house. And one of the amazing things about that and sort of a real blessing in my life is that I was surrounded by so many different people from so many kind of different walks of life, because Steel City was a music venue, it was a restaurant, but really it was sort of a community center more than anything else, and still is. I sold it in 2016, but it's still going strong, and it taught me a lot about kind of how so many different people from so many different kinds of backgrounds can really come together and build something beautiful, in spite of the fact that maybe they see things from different perspectives. When they come together there, it just beautiful things happened. And when I sold the business in 2016, and Patrick, who I met at Steel City, reached out to see if I was interested in the job, and I was. It was just an amazing blessing that the same opportunity presented itself in this position as it did at Steel City.
Amazing. Well, it's just a small world, isn't it, too? I
Yes,
mean,
indeed.
with the minute I saw Steel City Coffee House, I thought he's got to know Joe, and it's an interesting thing how it all comes together. And our communities here are much smaller than we realize, right? I mean,
Yeah.
And that's what you're both doing. You're serving your community with Martha's Choice Marketplace. So tell us about that, Patrick. We'll go to you. And I know that you're a busy person with your beautiful wife and your 4 children. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Sure. Well, I mean, I came to the food pantry. I think that was a really providential happenstance. My wife and I grew up in the area in Norristown and Bridgeport, and we both went to the same high school, several years apart, but we ended up falling in love and eventually getting married 10 years ago exactly, in about a week or two. And I started teaching middle school, and then I realized that's definitely not the way to go for me, at least. and I didn't really know what I was going to do. And I was off for the summer, and I was farm sitting at a Dorothy Day Catholic worker farm in Wilkes-Barre that was co-owned by a former professor of hers from DeSales University, both doctors Larry and Carrie Chapp. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them.
Oh, she was on the board of directors, and Bill knows her too for the St. Raymond Annatis Foundation. And guess what? She's also a good friend of mine too.
No way.
Carmina Chapp. Well, yep. I've been up there to visit. As soon as you said Dorothy Day Worker Farm, yeah, it's an amazing place. And she's a professor at the university, the college that I just graduated from up in St. Joseph's College of Maine.
Yeah. Oh my God. Wow. Yeah. Extremely small world going on here.
Yeah.
So I was up there with my brother Kevin and my 4-year-old daughter at the time, who's now 8, and another almost infant, and we're milking goats, and I'm trying to absorb the beauty and the peace of this farm. And I was also not very religious at the time, so I'd kind of fallen away from the church. And I was just in kind of a bit of a nebulous state, and also professionally untethered, and but I don't know, so I was just on this farm with nothing to do but do all this farm work and sit in Larry and Carrie's dining room, was just lined with all these theology books. So I just started reading and praying and thinking and talking, with my brother, and I don't know. And then Catholic Social Services called me and said, "Hey, we got your resume. We definitely want to interview you for the job." And I didn't apply for it. And I was like, okay, great, miracle, wonderful. So I interviewed. I realized that the person who had been doing the work to redo the this nun's basement into a grocery store, where people can shop for free. I had applied for an internship with him to install edible landscapes in people's front yards or whatever, and he didn't really have money for me to do that, but he had gotten this job, revamping this food pantry, and he had my resume, and he applied for the job for me. So I went in and I interviewed, and they hired me. And then soon after, Eli came, and that's kind of how I came to be there. And my whole experience at the food pantry, like Eli said, like being in this real community, you end up developing very deep relationships with these people, all of whom are very different than yourself, and that I think that can't help but be spiritually transformative. And so that whole process was just a process of I don't know, uncovering God much more and more for me in my life. And it's just been such an outrageous blessing that continues to be a ever unfolding story for us, everybody.
Wow, that is beautiful. I just feel that this podcast was all God